Alright, for this week for my book Babble, I'm going to talk about criticism that I personally have within Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. Now, reading the book, I was actually very impressed with several of the things that Miller did, whether it's his way of characterizing the characters, the way he really makes his theme really important to and really central to the novel, or the meaning that he really delivers throughout the text. I was just impressed with it. So finding criticism, what I didn't like, was really hard for me this week because I had to go back and I looked and I was like, well, where in the reading would I have done something differently? That's kind of the question I asked. And I kept going back to this idea of the Central American dream. And because I'm a patriotic person and one who's a big believer in success and the possibilities, I found that if I was writing a play and that if I had the same scenario, I wouldn't have in the end, had that tragic ending where the American dream isn't attainable. I would have at least allowed someone within the story be able to find success to prove to the audience that, in the end, ultimately success is ultimately attainable. So looking back, I was like, well, what kind of literary elements did he use that I wouldn't have? And that was definitely his use of anticlimax. Now, at the beginning of the second act, of Act 2, Willie is talking to his wife Linda, and he's sitting down, having a cup of coffee, and he slept till 10 in the morning, and he's just really happy. And it seems like it's leading up to a really nice closure at the ending, and a really good ending. And he's talking about how his sons are getting along, how they're going out together, and they're trying to find a business venture that will ultimately be successful. And then with that, it immediately turns within the next, couple pages that their American dream isn't attainable. And in this instance, we see that he goes out to dinner with his family, and they immediately find that the sons are once again disagreeing, and that Willie and Biff are still having to deal with their unresolved conflicts. Biff doesn't find success with his sports venture, and Willie isn't even given a job as a salesman who's not traveling anymore. But that one moment at the beginning of the scene of Act 2, there was a sense that a good closure would come to the novel. But in fact, it turned into an anticlimax. It was more of a deflated ending, and the play ends with this tragic ending that ultimately is rather depressing. So this brings me to my question today, which is why? Why would the author do this? And it ultimately relates directly to theme. The author wants the theme of the novel to be really prominent, that the American dream isn't always successful, and that those who achieve it ultimately work the hardest. So this really pulled back in his entire meaning, and although I'm criticizing the way he did it and the message that he's portraying to his readers, I ultimately see what he's doing with using literature and really using his story to bring across a message and really make his theme even more prominent.